Hello, everyone. It's Ginger here at Modern Motion. I am excited to be here for episode 2 of Chat Dance Love. And today's guest is the lovely Miss Jolette Bernadeau. So happy you're here to join us. How
Hi,
are you
Ginger.
today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. I am really excited that we get to talk to you, especially in Women's History Month. I think as a woman, as a mom, as someone fabulous, you're a great guest to be on our show. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Um, could you share kind of what inspires you raising girls during Women's History Month? Like, what kind of legacy do you think about that you want to pass on to the next generation, future women?
Well, I think what's important is that, my growing up in a Haitian family, my mother was very strict and restrictive, but at the same time, she was a leader and had high expectations for all of us. And that is what I'm setting for both of my girls as well. We're strict, restrictive, but there's definitely high expectations for them to achieve academically and socially and any other ways that they, want to venture out into. So,
Right.
yeah.
And one of your daughters is actually one of our ambassadors.
Yes, Miss Bernadeau.
Um, how is that for her? Is that something that you get to talk about at home about the responsibility as a young person to kind of have something that would
Yes,
actually prepare them for their future?
absolutely. Like when I first told her to become an ambassador, I got the side eye, of course. And I said to her, I said, it's a good thing to get you going and also to give you some responsibility to know that
Right.
you need to come in, you need to set up the room, you need to prepare the students. And as years have gone by, she's enjoying it. And now that she's a student teacher as well, she's enjoying working with the girls. Of course, there's a couple of improvements that are needed, but
Yeah.
I think this is the way to go for her just to empower her to know that there are younger ones coming behind her and she can teach them and help them keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
There was one time when I was here at the studio and I noticed that um, her teacher was running late. And so I said, hey, go ahead and start the warm up. And
Mhm.
she said, okay. And she just got up, went over, she started doing it. She told them the steps to do, she demonstrated everything. And so I think what a great way for her to kind of practice those skills and also for the younger ones to say like I want to be like one of the big kids who can do
Absolutely.
this too.
Absolutely.
um,
Because I
that's
know
really cool.
her younger sister as well can't wait to be an ambassador. So that should be interesting when that
Yeah.
comes along.
So you mentioned about kind of strict and high expectations, but I also know that you all know how to have fun.
Yes,
Um, so I think that that's really a nice element. Like you know how to have fun and laugh with your kids.
absolutely.
Um,
Not just
and
me, dad as well. We love
yeah,
having fun with them. We want them to be able to enjoy, but at the same time, when it's
yeah,
business. And when it's time
right.
to have fun, absolutely, it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Now, can you talk about kind of the impact of the pandemic and how that might have affected um, your girls? Because this is the thing I keep hearing across the board. It's affected adults, it's affected kids. And what I'm hearing a lot is the kids are more than normal. They're kind of, some kids are having trouble with anxiety or they're having some mental health concerns because they didn't have that time, that social time. They didn't have um, kind of the normal way of being. They were very concerned about whether it was the pandemic or different issues. So, how did that kind of impact your family?
So going into the pandemic, for us, I would say my kids loved the fact that the pandemic happened because it
Mm,
slowed the pace down for me personally.
yeah,
I
yeah.
started working from home. Usually I'm out of the house by 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
So I was not getting to see them in the morning. And by the time I came from home, it was always a rush. It was a matter of did you
okay.
get homework done because there's always an extracurricular activity that they need to go to. So there was really not much time for chatter. It was always a
Mm,
schedule. You got
go,
to get
go,
this
go.
done. You got to go. Because if you don't get this done, you can't do this.
Right.
So the pandemic kind of slowed everything down. Everything became remote. There was time to sit and
Mm,
talk. And, even my youngest, she was like, Mommy, you're much nicer now, because of the fact that
Oh,
I wasn't always moving and saying, I don't have time
yes.
to talk. We just
Right.
need to, focus. But also within our household, I did not allow the external talk to affect them in any way. And we sat down
Good.
and we talked to them and we made them understand that this is not on purpose. This is what's happening in the world right now. And luckily,
Right.
you have a sibling to communicate
Mm.
to. You're not a single child household.
Yeah.
And I did not let them feed into this, oh, anxiety. Life happens. And when life happens, you
Mm.
communicate with your kids and you make your kids understand what's going on. And, it could have been worse. So the
Right.
fact that you have each other, I mean, I can say my husband and I, we started doing a lot of things we'd never do, like giving additional, TV time. My
I
youngest got a
think we all did.
yeah, I gave my oldest a phone so that she could be able to communicate with her friends a little bit more because everybody was on, FaceTime.
Right.
So we understood what needed to happen to make them comfortable. But at the same time, I didn't feed into, oh, well, because they can't see their friends, they're miserable. You're seeing your friends on FaceTime. And when you think about it,
Mm.
sometimes you bring these kids together, all their heads are down in their phones anyways. So
Yeah.
why am I going to feed into, the kids are lonely? Yeah, I know they want to go out there and, hang out and whatever. But because of the pandemic, this couldn't happen. But we found other ways for them to communicate and
Right.
not feed into. There was no anxiety on our part. They were
Hmm.
remote for the first, for the end of the year, and then for the following year of their classes, they were remote. And this year, everybody went back. So
Right.
I don't believe within our household we had any issues with respect to the
It's
pandemic,
good.
except for the fact that they were happy we were home and it wasn't as fast paced.
Right.
Yeah. And there was more communication, there was more downtime,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed that part. We definitely enjoyed
Yeah.
that part. Yeah.
Do you think there's anything that you change that you're going to keep, even now that, things aren't where they were
The
back
remote,
in, early
remote part,
2020?
the remote part for me, I'm trying to keep so that I
Yeah.
don't have to be worried about getting stuck in traffic, going up, coming
Mm.
back. I like the fact that I'm able to be more involved with them now that
Yeah.
I'm home. And
Right.
everything else has started going back into the studio for dance, soccer
Right.
has started, and even Fabi has, is dabbling into theater. So, we've kind of adjusted and
Yeah.
moving forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, what have you kind of talked to the girls about in terms of advocacy, whether it's for themselves or others?
Well, with that respect, I always tell them that they need to speak up because culturally, we
Hmm.
know that, it's not a given for us women to speak
Right.
up. But through my own experiences, I've learned to speak up and stand for
Right.
what's right. And I want them to do the same. I want them to understand that they have a voice and they have the right to contribute
Right.
to whatever aspect that they're involved in. They should definitely always feel free to speak up and have that confidence in them.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Um, so now as a mom, I know several of my friends, they've got like an older toddler little kid and like a baby. You've already been through that phase. Do you have any advice for moms that maybe are having a hard time with, you feel like you got into a groove with the first child and now with second one, like the dynamic of your whole family changes, right? It's not as simple as, oh, I just have another person to love, like what would you say to kind of encourage moms who are kind of working through adjusting
I
to having
think
two
it's a matter
kids?
of taking a breath and just
Mm.
trying to make time for yourself as well as making time for them collectively and individually. Like, Francesca and Fabi, they're 4 years apart. So once I had Fabi, I had to learn that I need to give Francesca her time. And
Yeah.
once I've given Francesca her time, give Fabi her time. And then incorporate them together, do things with them together. And I think having two girls made that a little bit easier for me.
Right.
I kind of geared them to do things in the same direction. Except now Fabi has gone off to theater and then
Yeah.
Francesca's still doing sports and dance. But for the
Right.
longest time, I kept them on the same track so I can keep them together
Gotcha.
and be able to, I don't feel like I'm stretching myself where one is in cheerleading and the other one's in, and I can't be there for both. So
Right.
in a way, I was able to do that. But if you have two different children, it's just a matter of taking a step back and seeing them for who they are and giving them their time and letting them express how they feel for that time and not shutting one down for the other, just being
Right.
inclusive of both.
Right.
Yeah.
So you touched on something really important, right? It's taking a step back and kind of not just like tunneling straight ahead all the time. What are some of the things that you do just for you?
I would say a glass of wine every once in a while. once, once,
Oh, lovely.
once they fall asleep and I know they're not waking up and I won't need to drive, I definitely, like to indulge in
Yeah.
a glass of wine every once in a while.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I do my reading. I watch my certain movies when I know they're asleep,
Yeah.
but are not. So,
I get it.
and like even when they're in dance class, that's my time, my
Mm,
downtime to do whatever I want, and stuff like that. That's what I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, One of the things I learned about you very early on, you you were like my mom. My mom, she didn't just take care of her three daughters. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna come. I'll take care of you. You're hungry. I'll feed you. I'll help you with your homework. I'll pick up your kid too."
Yeah.
You're definitely part of that village that kind of embraces all children. Um, is and I'm sure you're teaching your kids through, just the example of how it doesn't matter who you are, like you're like everybody's mama.
Yeah.
um, do you think that we need more of that, like more parents working together community wise?
I do. I think it's definitely a benefit because just as I've created friends through my children, because my children
Right.
connect with kids, whether it be at school or, sports or dance. And from there, this is where most friendships are created. I don't have much family here in New Jersey. So the
Mm,
friendships that my kids have created along the years are kind of the people that I consider my family. So if a mom is not available to do something to bring their child somewhere, I'm here. If they have to
yeah.
leave early, there's no reason the child should miss out. So I'm
Right.
available. If I need to drop off, pick up, by all means. And I think it's great like that. There's no need for there to be that, well, my kid is better than yours. And, no
Yeah.
competition. Just embrace and be there for one another.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw your youngest do that with my son. he loves her so much because he's like, she'll sit there and read to him.
Yes.
So she's like, baby Jolette. It's
She's an
very
old
cute.
soul. She's an old soul, and she loves him as well. This is the fact that when she can't see him, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, you kind of talked about how you take some time for yourself and do things. Are there things that you would say are like really good ways to help keep your kids grounded? Like maybe it's something you do with prayer, meditation. Like, is there something you do as a family that you think helps ground your kids? Because they're busy, they're active, and they're still down to earth. So,
Yes,
how do you do that? How do you achieve that?
we talk a lot. We talk a
Mm,
lot. We have an open door system. It's like they're always behind me. Like I turn the corner, one's there in my face. Mom, can I ask you a question? I allow them to be inquisitive. I
right,
allow them to just be able to express themselves to a certain extent.
right, right.
Yeah, but I always leave myself, we leave the door open for them to just come and ask questions. There's no
Yeah,
question that is not allowed to be asked because
right.
if we're not the ones answering it for them, they're going to go find out somewhere else. And I prefer that they get the correct response from us. Although
Mm,
sometimes they might not agree, being that
right.
I have my eldest who's quick to say, well, but turning into a teenager, of course, she has her own
Yeah.
mind. But at the same time, I think to keep them grounded is communication. Communication is key. So, they come from school. The first thing I say is, how was your day? What happened at school?
Mm,
Is everything great? We talk. And I don't
right.
allow electronics and social media to teach them. I want to be their teacher. And if
Yeah.
there's anything that is going on and they need to ask me about, feel comfortable enough to come and say, Mom, can we talk about this? And I also allow them the privacy.
Right.
The age difference.
I
If
think that's important.
Yes, it's very important because Francesca just turned into a teenager. Things might be happening, so sometimes she wants to talk to me without Fabi being around.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I do my best to do mom days, mom afternoons,
Hmm.
where I'm with just one child and not the other.
Right.
So now that Fabi's in theater, I'll take Francesca with me. We'll, go shopping, we'll have lunch together, and we'll talk without Fabi
Right.
being present. And at the same time, if something's going on with Francesca, where she's doing something and I can be with Fabi one-on-one for a couple of hours, I'll do the same, where she's free to speak and not worry about what her older sister is going to say. So
Right.
that's important. Yeah.
One of the other things that I think is important, especially in talking to young ladies, is kind of their self-image, and when they see other kids or other people, whether it be in social media, movies, whatever, where they might look at themselves and think, I'm not like them, or I don't look like them. I don't, and they kind of start to question themselves. How do you kind of talk to them about that, maybe body image, or how they, how they perceive themselves once they have a chance to see kind of what else is out there?
Yeah. It's funny you should say that because their father is the one who started focusing on that as
Mm,
little toddlers. He would always say, what's your name? Who are
yeah.
you? And then always say, it doesn't matter what you see out there. Just believe in yourself and focus on who you are. With respect to body image, I tell them that they need to respect their bodies and
Mm,
also not be so concerned about, whose stomach is hanging out and what outfits. I don't feed into the outfits
right.
either. I don't want you to look like everybody else. And when you go into a store and you look at an outfit you want to buy, think about it. Think about it. Is it presentable? Is this something, mom and dad would approve of? Because, you're getting to the phase with Francesca now, especially where she wants to pick out her own outfits. But at
Right.
the same time, I need you to think twice before you pick out that outfit. And with image, I don't want image to be such an issue. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be,
Yeah.
oh, I'm fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too tall. You are who you are. And I love you for
Mm,
who you are. And that's all we're going to focus on. We're not going to be so concerned about what's happening on the outside. Let's just
right.
focus on who you are as a human being.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe 10 years ago, a lot of working women would say, oh, you just got to find balance in your life. You've got to balance being a mom, a wife, a professional woman. And I think, especially since 2020, a lot of women are like, forget it. That's BS. There is no such thing as
But,
balance.
but in reality, you know what? There's never been
Yeah.
balance. It's just
Right.
how you manage it. There's never
Right.
really been you have to, you have to. It's not a matter you have to. For me, my girls are first and foremost, and then
Hmm.
family. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, shrug my girls around to get to the top of the ladder, whatever. For me, it's always been my girls and my family. So
Right.
when COVID happened, like I said, it was like I welcomed it. While a lot of people were screaming to go back into the office, I was like, I am happier in this
Mm,
office working and providing you. Because even if I woke up early and I went to bed late, but I was still home. And if I needed
yeah.
to stop and give them attention, it was okay. But in the office, if I got into work at 7, but somebody called me at 10 and said my child wasn't feeling well, I'm not thinking about staying at work. I'm thinking about I
Right.
need to go get that child and take care of that child. But now you have that option and it
Hmm.
makes it a lot
Hmm.
better, which is why
Definitely.
I embrace being home and working remotely. I embrace
Yeah.
it. I love it.
I'm sure they love having you there.
Oh yeah, they do. They do. They do. And I get to see them in the morning and I get to see them when they come in. It's not a rush. Everybody sits down. We do homework. If they need my assistance, I help them. And then we're like, okay, let's move on to the next thing that we have to do for the evening. So it's a slow moving process, but it works. It
Right.
works. Yeah.
Right. Hmm. That's a really good message about, taking, I think first when everything was shut down, everybody was like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk in the neighborhood. I'm going to I'm gonna dust off that Monopoly board. We're gonna make popcorn and have a movie at home. And it was kind of like fun. And then I think some people were just like, okay, I'm tired of walking around the neighborhood. I've been to every park,
Mhm.
like it got to be too much. But I think that that piece that we had family time, that we connected with our
Mhm.
kids,
Yeah.
it was really,
And for me, I loved it. I just love being
yeah,
able to be home without having the stress of worrying about I'm going to be late or I'm going to be charged for picking them up late from school. It was just a smooth process. They wake up in the morning, and again, we had to go into a mode of how we're gonna take care of the fact that they're home. So we went through, we reallocated space in the house. I mean, we even turned one of our rooms into a tap room, laid down a floor so the girls can do tap.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
I
so
remember that.
even we had the girls switching rooms for dance, where one room was the ballet room and the other room was tap. So there was
That
a
was
lot
awesome.
of ideas of how we could make this work so it did not affect them. And so they had their own, school space. Each person had their own corner. We had to set up cameras to make sure everybody's doing their work because I was downstairs. So again, there was a lot of thought put behind what's the next step and how do we deal with this whole new pandemic that we're living in. But at the same time, we made it work. We made it work, and we did not make them feel like, oh boy, this is a tragedy. This is just the new way of
we
life.
adapt.
This is how we're going to adapt, and this is what we're going to do to make it work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
What is your wish for your children?
My wish. I think my wish for my girls is that they believe in themselves, they have confidence in themselves, and they're comfortable enough to open up and say what they need to say when the time comes. And just to be happy and free and enjoy the time that they're having, not to be so quick to grow up, and just be children, be girls, enjoy life, and go from there.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for doing episode 2 of Chat, Dance, Love.
Thank you.
I am so happy to have this conversation with you. I think you shared a lot of good tidbits and reminders to not only take care of ourselves, but to give, really positive messages to our children. And, to take the time out to teach them how to adapt as things change. Because I think if it's not COVID, it's something else, right? And how to adapt and flow with it and stick together as a family, right? To make that happen.
Because I don't think we'll ever go back to what life used to be. It'll never be that. So we got to move forward and keep crushing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for crushing it.
Thank you, Ms. Ginger.
Yes. So with that, I will sign off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on our live. And thank you again to Miss Jolette for your time. Everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.